Hello and welcome to the next video where we are going to be talking about a very useful tool and essentially a necessity for you if you want to become a good programmer, namely Git. Git is a tool that allows us to store versions of our software, go back and forth between those, and via the usage of remote repositories, we'll be able to cooperate with other people. But still, the remote repositories will be part of the second video. Right now, what we want to talk about is just how to use Git, how to make your first commit, and how to actually add Git to your project. So here, as you can see in my IntelliJ, I have added a really clean project with nothing else in it. This is just a clear project just created that I can also see in my file explorer over here by the name of Git Showcase. So what I want to do is to initiate Git init and see how it works. So first of all, if you are not using MacBook or Linux, then Git is not available at the start, so you need to download it. And you can do it by going to the official page of the Git solution. But other than that, after you have downloaded it, then if you are using Windows, if you go into any folder and you press right click, then you will get this additional option, right? Open Git graphical user interface or Git bash. What I propose is to use Git bash in the beginning until you know all the commands, know what they do and why do you use them. Because otherwise you can use, of course, the graphical interface, but it's not going to be as useful if something goes wrong and you will not actually know what's happening underneath. So that's very important tip from me. Always use Git bash, at least in the beginning, until you understand what is going on. So Git, now that I have opened it, is essentially a terminal-driven solution, meaning that the most of it is going to be looked at from the terminal or from the screen that we see right now. So what can we actually do in it, right? Right now, if I input a command that is going to be very widely used by you, git status, this command gives me information about what is happening, what is the status of Git, and whether I can even use it here. Yeah, so the information that I get is this is not a Git repository. So Git works based on repositories, a local repository and a remote repository that we'll discuss in the next video. So local repository is essentially just that. It's a local information about the changes that you have done to the project and why have you done them. So let's fix this error. Let's initiate a new repository of Git. In order to do that, if we want to point out that this particular folder that I'm in, meaning C, DevLaunch, Git Showcase, I want to start a new Git repository here, I just use git init. And here I get information that initialize empty Git repository in this path. So let's take a look at what has happened in IntelliJ. IntelliJ is a very good tool. It already tells me that something has changed. When I have created a new repository here, but I haven't added anything to it, I can see that all the files which are not tracked by Git are actually marked in kind of orange, dark orange, red color. So this is to indicate that those files will not be saved and their changes are not being tracked at all, but they are a part of Git repository. In order to add them, we just need to use this method called git add. So let's just try and do it. If I go ahead and use git add command, what I do need right now is to actually tell Git, okay, which files do I want to add to it? If I were to be really detail oriented, then I would just go ahead and add each file one by one, but I don't want to do it. I'm lazy, so I want to add all of those without any issue, right? Because otherwise it's going to be a very cumbersome, very tiring. And if I have more files, for example, 50 classes that are there to be added to Git, then it's going to take me 20 minutes to even list out all of those files, which is going to be annoying. So in order to combat this, I got this option to use $sign, which is going to mean really just add everything. So I'm going to press just that. And we're going to be talking a little bit about why can we use it, when is it good, when is it bad. So all the files have been changed from red to green. This means that those files are newly created for Git. It doesn't know them yet. It hasn't been committed, but it is being tracked. all the new files that you ever add will be marked as green. And then after we do a commit, I'm going to talk a little bit about how we can also see the changes that have been done there. So the reason why I can use this dot and not worry about anything, because of course, within our projects, we have files that we do not want to add. Those are like the byproducts of our work, the code that we have generated, some jars, some sensitive data, some API keys that we do not want to add. And for that, there is a special file called git-ignore. This git-ignore file is actually generated automatically by IntelliJ whenever I have created a new project. But if you want to create a more comprehensive one, then you can just go ahead and try out some generators on the internet. So within a git-ignore, there is information about which directories, which files I do not want added to my Git, meaning that every path to any file that is here, any directory that is listed out here will not be added to Git at all whenever I'm doing this operation that I have just shown you before, git add that. So yeah, with that being said, what we have done right now is we have marked the files that we want to add, that we want to save, but are not yet saved. The operation of saving is actually called committing. So in order to do a commit, which is saving a version of the code, we need to use a command called git commit -m, and then I can put here in quotes my message that I want to put for this commit, so that I know in the future why have I made this change and what was the part of this change. So let's just call it first commit. And after I press it, I see that some modes have been created, how many files have been changed, and how many lines have been inserted. Of course, Git also uses branches, it uses pull requests, it uses more advanced stuff, but right now we don't really need this information. And whenever we're going to be talking about projects where we want to use branches, pull requests, and all the mechanism, then we'll talk about it. But for the time being, just the basics of Git is going to be enough. So as you can see, IntelliJ is also a very intelligent tool. So it tells me that everything has been changed properly, it has been committed. I don't have any changes by the way that the files look. They're all in white, meaning that there is no change compared to the version that I have saved just now. But if I go into main and I change the message that I'm printing out from hello world to hello Git, you can see that first of all, main has changed to this blue color, and the line that I have made changes to is marked in blue. If I click it over here, I can see what was there before versus what is there now. So this is also a very nice way to see what has happened. If I want to add it right now, if I want to commit it, then I can just use the terminal that I have over here. But this terminal that is here is not something that I always need to use. I can also use what IntelliJ gives me in two ways. So let's close this one right now. And let's see what can we do to make it a bit easier so that I do not need to have a separate open window to each time go to whenever I want to do something Git related. I can just go ahead, select terminal from the bottom left side, and here I can paste the same comments as I have done before. I will add all the changes that have happened, and then let's use git status to check what is happening. And here we can see that we are on branch master, which is the default branch that is created whenever you initiate a new repository. And as I've said about branches, we are going to be talking about them a little bit in the future. Then I've got the list of changes to be committed. It tells me that I can use git restore staged file to unstage, but this is not something that I want to do. Unstaging means essentially removing it from the files that I want to save. But right now I can also just commit the message as I did before, changed hello world to hello Git. And yeah, as you can see, there was one insertion in one line and one deletion, meaning that this line has changed. And once again, everything has been committed. Then, in the bottom left, just underneath the terminal and problems, I've got this Git menu, also accessible by hotkey Alt+9. And here I got all the history that I have done. Here I got the message, I've got the files that have been added within this commit, and then the changes from all the commits are available so that I can see what has happened, and I can even compare by double clicking it what was there before and what was added via the commit. And here you can see that each commit has a hash to it, meaning that it has this short code that lets me identify the commits between each other. You can also see them in the bottom. Along with this, I also see the date, the time, and who was the author of this particular commit. So this is very, very useful. And then again, I can see in another way what has been changed and who was the author of the changes by right-clicking here and selecting annotate with git blame, and I can see who was the author of which changes, what was the commit, and how to really see what has been happening. Right now, of course, this is a very simple showcase to tell you how to use Git, but of course, if it's a bigger project with more history, then those tools that I'm showing you right now become even more useful. So with that being said, of course, there is a graphical interface available via Git, or rather IntelliJ. If we go in the top left this time, into the commit menu, I can see that I can list out all the changes, select files, enter a commit message, and commit those changes. We're going to be talking about pushing a remote repository in just a second in the next video. So with that being said, if I just try to change something here, hello test, then you can see that IntelliJ allows me to select the file that I want to commit. I can also include the message that I want, testing out commit via IntelliJ graphical user interface. I can just press commit, and in the same way, this has done all the things that I have done before via the terminal. Meaning this here is doing essentially a git add command, and here is just git commit. So yeah, that's pretty much it about the basics of the Git and the local repository. Because right now I've got those changes in my own environment, on my own PC, but I cannot really share them with anyone else without just giving them the file that I have here, the Git showcase. Because yeah, there is no access to it. I would need to send them it via email, via a cloud service, or anything of sort. So this is not something that I want to do, but rather I would like for them to have a centralized place to use and check the changes and to cooperate with me. So in order to do that, what I will need is a remote repository. This time we're going to be using GitHub, and I will showcase how to use it in just a second in the next video. So thank you very much for watching, and see you in the next video where we are going to be talking about the remote repositories.